Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we'll be taking another look at the bivariate analysis of categoric variables using cross tabulations. Here you can see a contingency or cross tabulation between two variables. One is satisfaction level about a new product that was launched, and the second one is gender. So you can see here that the satisfaction level has three possible values, which are this is written in the columns: unsatisfied, unsure, and satisfied. Whereas gender can have two outcomes, male or female. The values that you see here over here are basically the counts of the respondents responding as unsatisfied, unsure, or satisfied, and their genders. So you see a total written over here, which is basically the total of all of these entries, which represents the total count of males in this data set. Here we see another total, which is the total of count of the females in this data set. You also see some totals under these columns, which are 30, which represents the total number of people, irrespective of the gender, who answered as being unsatisfied with the new product. 32 of the people were unsure about it, and 86 of the people were satisfied. So these are the row totals, and these are the column totals. Uh, these are also known as the marginals, and they represent the total count of a certain category of value against for a certain variable. So for a row total sense, the rows represent the categories for gender. This is the marginal total for the value male. This is the marginal total for the value female. And here are the marginal totals for unsatisfied, unsure, and satisfied, respectively. This is the total count of the data items. And here, the values in the center of the table, they represent different uh, the counts of answers or the combination of values for these variables that we are studying. So for example, if we pick this value 12, this represents the total count of people who were male and who were unsure about the products. Here we see 5, which is actually the count of females who were unsatisfied with the product. And 36 is basically the count of those people who were female and were satisfied with the product. Using these values, we can compute the relative frequencies and proportions of the specific cases uh, over different combinations of the categories. So if we want to find out the relative frequency of females who were unsure about the product, it is going to be 20 divided by the total count, which is 148. And if you want to find out the proportion of female who were unsure about the product, let's see this with the help of an example. It says that an ice cream parlor's recent record of ED ice cream sales shows that 45 of the customers were kids, while the rest of them were adults. So since we know that the total records that we're considering here is 80, out of which 45 are kids, we can easily calculate how many of them were adults. 25 of the kids, they chose chocolate flavor, and the rest chose vanilla, while only 12 of the adults, they chose the chocolate flavor. Here, now we need to build the contingency table and derive some insights using the relative frequency. Once again, I must clarify that contingency table is the same as cross tabulation. So here we are looking at two variables. One is the flavor of the ice cream, and this other one is age group. And we know that age group and flavor both have two categories. Age group has two possible values, kid and adult, whereas flavor has vanilla or chocolate. Now, from the data given to us, we're going to fill in these values in these cells. We know that we can identify the amount quantity specified here. We can see that 80 is a value 45, 25, and 12. So we are going to put them into the appropriate cells over here. We know that 80 is the total count, so it comes here. Then the other value that we know is 45, and we've been told that of all the customers, all the records that we're looking at, 45 of them were kids. So it is going to go under the kid in the marginal total cell, because it is the total number of the kids. For now, we do not know which of them, how many of them chose vanilla or chocolate. We are going to look back at the question and find that value out. But this is where 45 goes. Then we also know that 25 of them, among those kids, 25 of them, they chose chocolate. So 25 comes here, where the person is a kid and he or she chose chocolate. Then we have the other value, which is 12. Now, what has been given in the question is 12 of the adults, they chose chocolate flavor. And these are all the values that we knew from the question that we have put in the table. So 12 comes here, where the age group is adult and the flavor that they chose was chocolate. Now we need to find out, calculate the rest of the values, and we can do that very easily. Here we know two values. In this row, we know two values, and we know that when we add these up, we get the marginal total for this cell. So, and we also know that we have two values over here, and we can calculate. So now we need to calculate the rest of the values. We need to identify those columns or rows where we have at least two of the values specified and only one is missing, because we can calculate the rest. Here we see that we have two such rows. We have two values given over here. We can calculate this one, and we have two values given over here, and we can calculate this one. We know that when these two values are added together, we get this total. So we can easily calculate this cell, which is 35, by subtracting 45 from 80. So we get this as 35, which is the count of the total number of adults in the records that we're looking at. So we get 35 over here. Now it is easy to calculate the rest of the values. We know these two values, and we also knew these two values. So by adding these two up, so now we can choose any order of filling in the values. Here we know these two values, and we know that anything over here is basically a value which, when added to this, gives us 45. So we can subtract 25 out of 45 to get 20 over here. And similarly, over here, we get 23, because 23 added to 12 gives us 35. Then we have 43, 20 added to 23, we get the marginal total 43 over here and 37 here. These values were not specified in the discussion, in the specification of this data, but we calculated them from this contingency. So we know that the total number of customers who ordered vanilla flavor were 43. We also know that the total number of customers who ordered chocolate flavor were 37. There are a few other insights that we can get from this contingency table. It is the percentage of the kids, the total proportion of the kids in the customers were 56.25. How? Because it is 45 out of 80. Similarly, 37 out of 80 is the percentage of the customers who preferred chocolate flavor. How? Because total count or marginal total for chocolate is 37 out of 80, gives us 46.25 as the percentage or proportion of people who preferred chocolate flavor. 12 out of 80 here is the percentage of the customers who were adult who chose chocolate flavor. So basically here we are actually looking at an intersection between these two values, which is a customer who was an adult and they also preferred chocolate. So it were only 12 out of 80, which was 18% of the overall customers, 18% of the total customers, which were 80, they preferred chocolate flavor and they were adults. 20 out of 80 were those customers who were kids and they liked vanilla flavor. So we get it from here. 20 out of 80 is the proportion of those customers who were kids and they preferred vanilla flavor, and it is 25%. There are some other insights that we can get from here. If you're asked what proportion of kids ordered vanilla flavor, now specifically we are looking at those records which belong to kids only. So we are going to look at this column, because this is what signifies, tells different proportions of the customers who were kids. So we need to find out the proportion of kids who ordered vanilla. For this, we have the total count of kids being 45 and 20 of them ordered vanilla. So it is going to be 20 out of 45, which is 44.44%. What proportion of people who ordered vanilla were adults? Now we need to look at this marginal total, which is 43, because this is the count of the people, irrespective of the age group, who ordered vanilla. Now we need to find out the proportion of them who were adults. So from here we find that 23 of those people who ordered vanilla were adults. So we find it as 23 over 43, which is 53.39% of the people who ordered vanilla were actually adults. Similarly, what proportion of people were kids who ordered vanilla? And it is, since we are asking about, we're not mentioning the proportion out of a specific category, it is from proportion of the overall people. You need to note the difference between these two percentages. Here we are actually looking at the proportion of kids who ordered vanilla. So that is why we took 43 as the marginal, as the total to compute the relative frequency. But here we are looking at the proportion from the overall set, which is 80 people, and we want to see those records which had two characteristics. One is that they were kids, and the second one is that they ordered vanilla. And this is the cell which gives us the records with the desired characteristics. So we calculate it as 20 divided by 80 is equal to 25. Once again, please take your time and have a closer look at these two questions and understand why we have a 45 over here for the relative frequency and why do we have an 80 over here for the relative frequency. Here we are looking for a proportion of people from a specific category, which is kids. So that is why we took this total. But here we are looking at a proportion from the overall data set, and we are looking at those records which had two characteristics from both of the variables. So we wanted them to be kids, and we also wanted the count of people who ordered vanilla, and they were kids. So here it is 20 over 80, which is 25%.